This TWiT news comes to you from TWiT's LastPass studios. Stay in control when it comes to your company's access points and authentication. LastPass makes enterprise-level security simple for your remote workforce. Check out lastpass.com/TWiT to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT News Special 352, recorded Friday, April 3rd, 2020. Blackmagic Designs Update. This TWiT News Special is brought to you by LastPass. From access to authentication to passwords, LastPass manages every entry point to your business so you can mitigate risk while improving employee productivity. Visit lastpass.com/TWiT to find out how they can help you. Hello, everybody. Leo Laporte here. Collar turned up. I haven't been out of the house in months. No, actually, I was here a few days ago. But we are, for the first time in some time, in the big studio. John's way far. Talk about social distancing. John's 20 feet away, and he's wearing a mask. I am here in a sanitized area of our studios because I felt like I was getting a little claustrophobic in the other studio, and I thought it'd be fun to go into the big LastPass studios today and do something we haven't done in a while and probably won't do all that often, which is cover a live announcement event. I'm thrilled that Blackmagic is doing this. It's my guess that because NAB 2020 was canceled, that was supposed to come up this month in Las Vegas, but obviously is not going to happen. I figure Blackmagic still says we have things to announce. Frankly, the first place I go when I go to the NAB show in Vegas in years past is the Blackmagic booth. Always really interesting. Lots to show, lots to talk about. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to announce today. We use TriCasters for our main switcher, but Blackmagic makes, and we don't use Blackmagic cameras, but Blackmagic makes some really good gear, both for high-end video production, but also for low-end. I have at home, the switcher I'm using at home, the ATEM Mini is just a few $100s. Are we ready to go? 5, 4, 3. Here we're going to go. There's the countdown. Let's check what Blackmagic has to share with us as soon as they go to it.
Hi, I'm Grant from Blackmagic Design. And today I'd love to show you some new updates we've been working on. Obviously, working very hard on considering the circumstances we've got going on at the moment. We've also got some new products to show you. So let's have a look.
There's the ATEM Mini right in front of him. That's what I was talking about, and I love that.
Summary on ATEM Mini.
This is such a cool
Everything we're going to be
device.
showing you is going to be built on top of what we're already doing with ATEM Mini now. So I think it's probably worth just starting with a summary of kind of its feature set.
A lot of podcasters
we've been very happy
would
with the
use
response
this,
to ATEM Mini.
and a lot of people
we
who
work very, very hard
are doing streaming from their offices and so forth.
What we've been able to do
would be interesting.
It's an all-in-one control panel-based design. So what that means is the switcher and the control panel are actually the one single unit. It's very easy to use. You just push the buttons on the front to change between cameras, so it couldn't be any simpler. It outputs to a USB as a webcam, so you can use any video software such as Open Broadcaster if you're streaming the video. It even works with Skype for presentations. It's got 4 HDMI inputs, so it can support up to 4 video cameras.
Anything that takes a video camera, or a web camera.
See, I've got that plugged into input 1. That's just
so he's got HDMI out of that camera going into the back of the ATEM.
Now, these HDMI inputs also work with computers for like slideshows if you're using PowerPoint or Keynote. And also they work with gaming consoles. That's because each input has got a separate Teranex scaler and standards converter. So you can pretty much just plug anything in and it works. So you can actually set the switcher standard independently of what the video formats are. Now there's also a HDMI output for connecting to TVs and video projectors or even an external recorder. There's also a built-in DVE which lets you do picture-in-picture effects. And also you can do animated DVE transitions with that as well. And yeah, that DVE stands for digital video effects, which is those little picture-in-picture type effects you see.
The key for most people will be that it has a Type-C connector with a Thunderbolt that you can connect to your computer as an input, as a camera. I don't see it as a webcam.
It's very, very powerful just as a product like that. But then if you use the ATEM Software Control app, you get a whole range of professional broadcast features open up. Now the ATEM Software Control works on the same connection that the USB works with. So if you look at the USB here, and if they switch to the user interface, if I unplug the USB here, you can plug it back in again. you can see that the user interface
Kind of get
comes
the
back
best
up
of
again.
both worlds,
There it
software
is.
and
I can go through my
hardware
palettes
switcher.
and change transitions and access all these powerful broadcast features in the product. Now, that's the same connection that the webcam, so the webcam video is coming through the USB, and if I run
really slick.
Skype or Open Broadcast on this computer here, the video will come through
Or
the
Zoom,
USB,
or Jitsi.
but I'm also controlling through the same USB back to the switcher. Makes it super easy to use. Now, because I've opened up all the broadcast features with the ATEM software, it's got a lot more controls than the panel has. So you can see I can do transitions, which I'll select bars because I've only got one camera. Or what will I select? Yeah, looks like that. So you can see I can do transitions between
You actually have a
video
T-bar.
sources. I can change to a dip.
And
or
color
wipes.
bars, by the way.
And I've got all the different
Please
palettes
don't
here with
use
all
a
different,
diamond wipe.
upstream
Just please
clears
don't.
and chroma keys and things. So you can see there's a lot of capability I've got in the switcher page. It opens up a lot of features that are sort of hidden in there. Now I can also load media. If I go to the media page, I've got all the 20 still frames in here. So this is all the media, and I've got a graphic here with an alpha channel in it. So that graphic's now loading into media pool spot number 1, and it's automatically outputting to the media player. So now that graphic is available as a video source inside the switcher, and its alpha channel has been converted into a key channel internally. So if I go down to, turn off my upstream keyer and go to the downstream keyer, and I've got that media player coming in, now I can turn that graphic on. It'll overlay on top of the live video. And in fact, I can even fade it on and off, which is quite nice. And you can also tie it to a transition. So when I do my transition, it'll fade on and off with the next source.
This is
so it's
such
quite powerful.
a great
So there's all
thing
kinds
to
of hidden
have
stuff in there like
if
that.
you're
and that's
doing
how
video
powerful
production
media,
at home.
Pages that let you
or
load
in
all
a
these
small,
graphics in.
you know, in
There's
a
also, you
business.
get access to the audio mixer in here in the Fairlight page. You've got all sorts of powerful
It doesn't have
audio
professional
mixing
audio in,
capabilities with
unfortunately, just a mini jack
equalization
for unbalanced.
and, dynamics like limiter, a noise gate, all kinds of things like that. So if I go into the equalization, you can see I can move around and change the equalization curve. And every single input has this. I can go in and turn on compressors and limiters.
It's pretty cool.
It's really quite
I wish
amazing
it
how much
had,
power I have in the
XLR
Fairlight
jacks on
page.
it.
And that full audio mix is built in. So the other thing, one of the last things I probably want to just summarise quickly, and it's going to matter for some of the things I'm going to show you in a second, is one of the things a lot of people don't understand is that the ATEM Mini also works as a program preview switcher. Now this is the way big broadcast switches work. So at the moment, when you use this ATEM Mini, in fact, let me turn off the keyer so I can see the video source change. When you use ATEM Mini as standard, you just switch between the camera sources. I've only got one camera plugged in at the moment. And that's called a cut bus style switching. But I can change it to a program preview style switching, which lets you select the source and check it before you bring it on air. And that's much better when you're doing sort of high-end work and you want to make sure you don't make mistakes.
That's how we do
so
it.
So
with
to
the
change that, you just
TriCaster.
go into the settings. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong window. I got to go down to the ATEM
If Grant's
utility,
confused,
and I'll
imagine how I
see
feel.
ATEM Mini. And I go down to here and see where it got a setting.
It
that
takes
says
some practice.
program
Play with this
preview
before you
style
start
switching.
using
Now,
it.
When I save that, what you'll notice is that in fact, I'll quit the setup utility, and you'll see that now when I select a source, it's changed the way the front panel behaves. What I've done is I've enabled number 2, and if you set the preview out of the video output, you can see this. So now instead of switching the source immediately, I can actually decide which source I'd like, and then when I press the cut or auto button, then it does the switch.
So
it
it's
lets you do it
ready
as a
to
two-step
take two,
process.
in
So you can
effect.
set up what you want to switch to first, then change it. So for instance, if you hit cut, it'll do a cut, and now it's moved to camera 2. I'm back on camera 1 as what I've preset. I can go auto, and you can see it did a transition back to 1. So the program preview way of switching is what all the top-end professional guys in broadcast
Unfortunately,
use.
these are way
And we'll
back-ordered.
take
I
advantage of
suspect
that
they're
of
hard
some
to
of the
get
things
right
I'm
now.
gonna
Let me
show you.
check.
So ATEM Mini, you can see there's nothing about ATEM Mini that makes it a low-end switcher. It's extremely powerful, and it's really great value at only $295. I think that it's one of the reasons why it's been so well received. You know, we didn't dumb it down and make a very simple switcher. We made a very powerful switcher, which by using the ATEM software control app to open all that up.
It's back-ordered.
Now,
Availability at
with so many
B&H is
features,
end of April. So
we've noticed a lot of people
might be worth getting in line for this
using
one.
ATEM Mini on some pretty big, complicated jobs. Now that's amazing because it shows how powerful it is. A little bit surprising, but it is pretty cool.
Very cool.
People are using it for seminars, concerts, even some outdoor sports, all kinds of things. You know, we
Gift
thought
this
people would
to
sort of
your
use fixed
favorite
cameras
teacher
mostly,
for their
but people are actually using
distance
camera
learning.
operators where they're actually controlling the camera. So what we've done is to help this out. Well, essentially, what people are doing is they're using specifically using Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras with ATEM Mini, and this is really interesting issue because we hadn't quite thought that would be so popular.
I'm actually using it with that Canon,
so you can see I've got some
that we bought, the
Blackmagic
H200,
4Ks
and it
here.
works beautifully, and it gives a great shot.
I think the reason why this is happening is a lot of people already have these Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras for production work. So when they're doing a live program, they're just using them with ATEM Mini to do live production with them as well. Now, obviously, the benefits is it's amazing picture quality. I mean, the picture quality of there's a digital film camera, so they look incredible. They're also fantastic at low light, and they've got a reasonably big viewfinder compared to consumer cameras. Like you can see the difference between the consumer camera here and the bigger viewfinder here. So they work a little bit like a studio camera.
$1,295.
However, there are some problems when using pocket cinema cameras for live production.
You can also
they are
use
digital film cameras,
an inexpensive point and shoot. That
there is some
Canon's
limitations. Like for example, you can't use the film gamma because the video looks flat. So you kind of need to use a 3D lookup table to make the video output look better, to make it look more like finished video, and that's a bit more complicated to set up. Also, the in-camera recording's nice, but you kind of, if you're doing multiple cameras, you kind of need to synchronize them so you can do some multicam editing, and that's not really something that's supported. Plus, it's sort of hard to control the cameras when you're working by yourself, so matching the cameras is a bit difficult. So we've been thinking about this, and we've developed a new software update for Pocket Cinema cameras. Now, it adds the studio camera features from our studio cameras into the Pocket Cinema cameras.
Interesting.
And it works with all the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K and the 6K models. There's also a software update for the ATEM Mini to do camera control. Now, there's no SDI connection to the cameras, and our studio cameras work by sending the information from the switcher to the cameras via the SDI return feed, and there is none in this
digital
case.
interface, which is what we use with the TriCaster. We convert HDMI to SDI using a Blackmagic converter.
Has a data wire on the communication. So even though there's video coming down the HDMI to the switcher,
how much of those
there's also some communication going back to the cameras.
Right?
And we set all this up so we would possible to do this.
I can look.
So we can actually get the ATEM Mini talking
but they have
to the,
microconverters that are $50
that
are USB powered.
Gives us control.
Interesting.
Now we can change all the camera settings.
You want SDI, of course, because you want
tally. And also there's a DaVinci.
So it's HDMI to SDI conversion.
DaVinci primary color correction in there as well.
Nice.
Now, if you look down at the user interface, you can see that there's actually a camera page that's appeared, and we've got the camera control stuff here.
Isn't that sweet?
Which is pretty cool. Now, what I'll do is I'll unplug this camera and I'll plug in these cameras here, and I can show you how this all works. So let me just unplug this guy here.
Take away that crappy consumer-grade camcorder. Install some
these cameras wide up into here.
cinema cameras.
So I can plug those in.
So you get 4 HDMI inputs and 2 audio inputs via mini jack. 4 is a lot. 4 is enough. And, you could have, for me at home, I have a single, a wide shot, and the computer. That's only 3.
Is that now we have, the first thing that's most obvious is the tally lights. So let me show you the
tally lights.
The tally. Now the camera is one thing that's worth noting. When the camera's plugged in, it detects that it's talking to an ATEM Mini.
This would be incredible.
And it switches the camera into studio mode automatically. And also it'll actually set the video standard of the cameras, apart from the first camera and camera 1, because the switcher takes camera 1's video standard, and then the other cameras will then follow the switcher, so it automatically sets itself up. Now let me show you the tally lights. You should be able to see over on the camera over there.
Look at that.
You can see the tally light changing, and because I'm using preview, what it means is as I step around and try, you can see the preview lights moving around so that the presenter can see which camera's about to go on air.
They're about to go live.
And then when I bring the camera on air, it switches across, and I can select the next camera, go cut, select the next one.
By the way, this is 4K
so it's really
production.
quite powerful.
Although I don't think the ATEM does 4K.
If I do a transition, both cameras are on air
1080p.
for a short period of time. So you'll be able to see both tally lights go red, and then it switches across. So obviously when you're doing program preview switching, the camera that was just on air is now armed for, is the preview camera for the next transition. So you can see really how powerful this is, and the presenters, it's just like a studio camera, the presenters now can see which camera's on. And also the other thing we've done on the back on the LCD, you can see that we've got a, if I bring camera 1 on air, you can see
ATEM Mini does 1080p 60, 10-bit 422.
And that's independent of the other screen overlays.
I mean, for us, that'd be
So that really makes
most
much
people
nicer if there's a camera operator to see what's going on.
But you've got 4K cameras.
The other option, features you've got is obviously
kind of
control the iris. I've got camera 1 on air and I've got video out. It's on air. And so I can come into here and I can now adjust the iris. I've got full iris control on the camera, and you can see the screen is adjusting.
That's really sweet.
So that's controlling the lens.
Especially now, because you can set up a studio that's isolated.
I've also got ISO settings. I can set the ISO.
The director can sit in a separate booth and control the cameras and everything. The only thing you can't do is move them, but I'm sure they'll sell a PTZ head for this.
So he knows the light reduces.
For most
There it is
broadcasts,
there.
you don't
So I've
need
got quite a lot
to.
of
You
stuff. I
might
can
have
even do
one in the
colour tint.
pulpit, one in the
So I can
congregation,
change the,
one in the choir,
because there's a DaVinci primary color corrector.
one
So
on
I
the
go off
altar.
to blue. I can go
You're
really
set.
red if I like. So it goes nuts. And also, this is a DaVinci primary color corrector. So I've got gamma, lift, gain. But if I click this button here, I actually get full color wheels, like very much like DaVinci Color.
Master's saying you could zoom in on that 4K. It's a good point.
Yeah.
With 4K,
And of
you
course I can
effectively
reset.
have four
And you can do the individual
1080p
channels here as well.
images, so
What's
you could
interesting
go
about,
in a 4x
DaVinci,
zoom.
you obviously got shadows, mids, and highlights like a normal color corrector or lift, gamma, and gain is a
If that's
color correction
controllable,
terminology.
let's see if it is.
So one thing about DaVinci is it's a YRGB color corrector. So you can even do the Y channel independently of the red, green, and blue channels. And that's how DaVinci works. Oops, I'm a little bit
One of the things that's awesome about
overcooked
DaVinci is to
here.
give
I'll
it
bring
away
down a
for
little bit.
free.
But you can bring up the Y channel independently.
great
Oops,
software.
I've gone way too far there. But you can see, in fact, I'm doing black, which is not what I want to do. So maybe I can bring up the whites in the... See, I can sort of start to bring the whites up and they pop a bit and sort of pulls the whites out, because that's the way DaVinci Resolve works. So the primary color corrector is actually the same between the two products. So that way you've got, if you're used to using DaVinci, you should be able to actually do some really creative looks in here. So it's really nice. Now, one of the other nice things about the camera controller is it doesn't lock out. On our bigger cameras, the switcher actually takes over the control of these settings in the cameras. But in the pocket camera situation, it doesn't lock out the camera settings. So you should be able to change settings locally. And then when you change something here, it'll override that. So it helps you to have retain a bit of control on the camera. Now, when you're working as a studio
Yeah, I think
camera,
this is
you're
also
still able to
what Father
record, but it'll
Robert's
work in
using as well
Blackmagic
in
RAW
his Vatican
and,
studio.
Yeah, 4K in the case
As
of
long
these
as
cameras.
4
and 6K in
inputs
the
is enough for you.
Blackmagic Cinema camera.
Remember,
Blackmagic
the
Pocket
computer
Cinema
is
camera,
one of them
6K.
if you want to show a computer screen.
I think with these new features, you really get a very professional sort of television studio. I mean, you've got full camera control. You can control
pretty
all the
neat.
cameras here. And you can adjust them all. You
I'm
can match
connecting that
cameras.
Canon and a Sony
It's really quite
A7.
powerful.
If I can
so I
figure
think
out the way to
obviously
keep
it's
that
really
powered, I
important
might
that
have to
cameras
order
are
one of those battery
the
adapters.
presenters can see when they're on air with the tally light.
Although it has
you
a
get
power
wonderful
jack,
color
so I
graded
might be able
digital
to do
film
that.
images. I mean, you can really spend a lot of time getting the hang of.
And honestly,
really how to make a wonderful
A7 is
looking
much more expensive than
digital
these
film looking
Blackmagic
actual,
cinemas. And
sort of
probably
image quality,
at
or
least
just
as
go
good.
nuts
The
and
only
do
thing you're
something
missing
really
is
over the top. So, I mean,
the control from the A10 to the camera, which is pretty cool.
And
the
having all that
talent
control, I
lights,
think, is
things
giving
like
you access to getting beautiful quality video out, but you're still able to record the Blackmagic RAW files internally and color grade them later. So the new ATEM switches 8.2 software update, which is what you need for the ATEM Mini, that'll be available today as a free update.
Nice.
It'll support all the ATEM Mini switches that have shipped up until now.
That's one of the nice
And the new
things
Blackmagic Camera
Blackmagic does.
6.9 update is also a free update, and that's available today as well. And that'll support all the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K models that we've shipped up until now. Now, that's not all we have today. We've also I want to introduce a new model of ATEM Mini, and it's called ATEM Mini Pro.
Oh, crap.
Now, the first thing to know about this new model is that it's got the exact same features of the ATEM Mini model.
Eight
but it also
inputs.
adds a few new and very powerful features. So let's have a look.
Just got the
bring it out,
ATEM Mini.
and you can see, here it is here.
All right, still got 4.
So there it is.
On the
As
front,
you can see,
it looks
it's
the
very
same.
similar
Yeah.
to the current model. It's got a few more buttons on the front, so I can bring it up and have a look there. So you can see the front, and you can also see the rear. It's got the exact same connectors on the rear panel. So if you can get a shot of them
Okay,
there.
I don't feel too bad now.
So it's got the same connections as the ATEM Mini, so it's really easy to set up.
I will vouch for
But
that.
there is some extra controls on the front panel, as you can see around here. So look, what I'll do is I'll plug it in. So I'll unplug the ATEM Mini, I'll plug in the ATEM Mini Pro. So the first thing I'll do is plug some power in.
It's nice it has a locking power adapter, the exact opposite of the MagSafe Alex loves. But you want that in something like this. You don't want it to fall out in the middle of a production. I do really appreciate
And
the
I'll
locking
move this
power
out of the way.
adapters.
I'll put him there. And I'll plug in some video. I'll plug our cameras in. So it's all the same.
There's no listing yet for a Mini Pro on B&H.
Connectors lined up here. I'll put this one aside. So we can put him there so you can see it. We can get a shot of the model there. Now, really the biggest feature of this model, I'll just lock down the power so I don't pull it out by accidentally. Now, really the biggest, most sort of important feature in this new model is it's got built-in hardware. It's got a built-in hardware streaming engine. Now, this is a big deal because the hardware has been specifically designed for streaming. Now, one of the problems with using streaming software is, depending on the computer, streaming software can drop frames. It's really, encoding a stream is a pretty complex task for a computer to do. It needs a lot of power to do it well. But now we have that hardware built in. It's specifically designed to generate a stream.
So a little mini
which means
elemental
you get
inside
images, and you don't
that.
get
And where does
frames.
it stream to is the question.
And also, you don't need to convert the webcam compression to the streaming compression.
That's
so
nice.
You don't get like double generation of video compression. The program output, the first time the video is compressed is in the hardware encoder, which is built into the ATEM Mini Pro.
This is very nice.
You get the streaming, the video output, the program output is directly converted to the streaming codec. Now they
probably realize that most of the uses of the ATEM Mini is for streaming.
You don't need any extra software running on the computer, which is nice because the computer can just use the software control. You don't need to have an extra app running in the background that's doing all that streaming. And one of the problems with streaming software is it's got a lot of complex settings. We've made it a much, much simpler process. ATEM Mini Pro makes streaming really simple. So look, let me show you how it works. Now, one of the things that
again, this is the kind of thing I get churches asking all the time, how can we do this? This makes it very easy for a church, a group of any kind, a school, to stream their classes, stream their services.
Now, the advantage to this is that you can actually do your control and the streaming through the USB signal. So let's plug that in. I've got an Ethernet cable here, and I'll replace the USB with this. And then what we can do is we can use the computer to share its internet, so we can use a mobile streaming. Now I've got this computer set up to have Wi-Fi to connect to the internet, and I've set the sharing settings to allow the Ethernet to share via the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi is doing the internet connection, and then the Ethernet connection I've plugged in here is now got the internet to the ATEM Mini.
I'd much prefer to connect this directly to the internet. I wonder if you can, though.
So I'll get rid of the USB, and I'll plug this in here. I'll plug in the Ethernet. There it is there. Now, it's just come up. Normally, probably because we practiced this before, normally you just go up to the connection menu up there and click connect and it'll come up. And in fact, I'll do that so you can see how that works. So we've added also another change here where it can find the switches on the network. In this case, it's directly connected. You can just click the ATEM Mini Pro and then connect.
Nice.
It's already connected. I didn't unselected. So you can see now what I've got is I've got the ATEM Mini Pro working through the control through the Ethernet, and you can see all the control works fine.
This is what you get if you go to NAB on the first presentation of the first day.
That all works fine.
Where did they get
and I can
that?
click the pages. I can go to the camera page and do some control.
Look at those.
That's my on-air camera.
Look at those tapes.
So it's quite powerful. Now
it's the old way. That's how we used to do it.
Can now see the computer, and the ATEM software control can control it. So that's all working fine. But the switcher can also see the internet, so we can use it for the live mobile stream, because now it's doing both. Now, what I'll do is I'll show you where that's set up, because it's a little tricky. But if you go into the system preferences and you go to the sharing folder,
in our chat room. So we have
sharing selected here.
an old
ATEM
here.
Sharing the Wi-Fi, and that's connected via this little
and we output directly
brand here.
Okay.
So that's all you need to do. You just need to go into the internet sharing. And that's on a Mac. On Windows, it's a different setting, but you can do the similar thing on Windows. And now I've got internet on this.
I'm sure there's a way to
through the
connect
Wi-Fi
directly. There's got to be, right?
Now, what that also means is that we can set up to do streaming. So what I'll do is I'll go and select YouTube. So what I do is I go into the output palette here, and you can see I've got a live stream palette. You can see here it is here. Now I'll select YouTube.
We have.
And there it is there.
I didn't even know.
Now what I need to do is I need to get a streaming key from the YouTube service. So if I go down to, now I've got that page set up, just open here. This is the streaming page to set up a stream on YouTube. If I go down to here, I can get my streaming key, and I can copy that out. Then I can go across and paste that streaming key in there. I can also set the quality. I'll use streaming high, and that's it. Now you want to set the quality high enough so you don't get pixels. And as you can see, I just selected streaming high because you want to make sure you get enough bandwidth to handle particularly if you're doing higher frame rates. You'll obviously need more data. If you're
what I
using
do
higher
now
frame
with the
rates.
ATEM Mini is
So
I'll start a
the ATEM
YouTube
Mini
live
Pro
channel, put the code
to a
in.
lower
They
frame
have
rate
in the
if you
software.
like.
They have
And the interpret converters will
a
actually
place you
take
can
care of
put
it.
the
So if
code
you had
and
like
you
a
can just
gaming
stream.
console that was doing a high frame rate, you could just switch the ATEM Mini Pro
the
down to
computer's
like
doing the
24 frames or something like
conversion,
that
the
to allow the
YouTube
data
software.
rate to go lower. And then
Does a
it's
fine
easy to
job.
stream, but the input converter would just
I'm not
take
sure
care
this
of
is
switching
much
the
better
video
if you have to
down
go
that
through a
lower
computer
frame
for
rate.
the internet.
Now, what I'll do is I'll go into the streaming here, and I've copied the key in. So what I'll do is now I can pretty much just start streaming by going on air. Now there's a button on the front panel here, and I can actually make it go on air just by pushing on air. Now what that'll do is now it's live broadcasting to YouTube. Now it'll take about 30 seconds or so before it comes through. So I'll just come in here and I'll just reset
Android
that
for controlling the ATEM.
page. Well, I think it's
It's a
looking
pretty
pretty good there.
straightforward API.
And it's all looking like it's running. So
You could do
yeah,
it from
does
an
take-
iPad,
there's
though, of
obviously a
course,
bit
and
of
an
caching
iPhone
through
as
the
well as
YouTube path.
Mac
It'll
or
take a little bit
Windows.
before it sort of comes through and cleans up.
Blackmagic's
So you can
pretty
set the streaming
Apple-centric.
from the front panel like I just did here, or you can also do it from the palette here as well.
Look at that.
Now, the other thing we've got is, when you're live switching, you're not actually going to have the streaming palette open. You're going to have transition palettes or care palettes open. So you can also get a status of the streaming. So if you click on this display status down here, it'll show you the status information down the bottom of the page. Now, what that'll do is it'll show you a few bits of detail,
a lot
like
of
obviously
Twitch
whether it's on
streamers
air.
and so forth would love to
But it
use
also
this.
shows you the data rate that's needed for the stream.
You can also use something
that's
as
really
simple
important. And at live
as
updates,
the Elgato,
based on the video
what is that called, a
switching.
Streamcast.
So different types of video sometimes will create different
It's
data
just
rates.
buttons.
And it's
This
also
is really
obviously
much
set
more
by the quality
sophisticated,
menu
I think.
that you set as well.
I think a lot of OBS
Now,
streamers, though,
the
use
data
that
rate's important because
Streamcast.
that's how much data you'll need from your ISP to make sure you've got enough internet bandwidth to get your stream out. So it'll be good to know, you can do some experiments with that and make sure you've got a lot of enough data rate. You can obviously drop the data rate down lower if you're having some issues with getting data, particularly if you're mobile streaming and maybe you're tethering a phone or something like that. Now, the other bit of information down here is also the cache. Now, it just says OK at the moment, but it can also be a percentage. ATEM Mini Pro's got a bit of memory in it, and what it tries to do is keep the stream going out. Now, if there's an interruption to the internet or some congestion, it'll cache and then try to get it through as the internet comes back online. So you'll often see the, sometimes, well, you won't hopefully see it, but you can see if it's getting behind, you'll see that this percentage goes up, and
It's
that means
Australian
it's
for
actually having trouble
cash.
getting the data out. Mostly you'll see that if someone trips over your internet cable and knocks the internet out, and then you might see that. Now, if we go to the YouTube page, we can see that we've got the live
there's the
stream coming
stream.
through here. Our
Nice.
condition is good. And if I change one of the sources, you'll see the source change here, and that's your stream. Now, there's obviously a little bit of a delay on this
There you
because
go.
it takes a while for the stream to get through and then come back through via
This is
YouTube.
the John Smith video
that's
stream,
essentially what
apparently.
protects you from choppy internet data rates because, the YouTube is also caching some of the data for you. And as you do different transitions to different cameras, you can see that program will come out and it'll change on the video up there. Yeah, there it goes there. So you can see it's 10 seconds or so. It's not too long. Now, it's funny, even if you just used ATEM Mini Pro for a streaming interface, it'd probably be worth it just for that.
But there's more?
Now, one thing that's also worth thinking about, we've also thought about high-end broadcast engineers. Now, obviously you can see in here it's pretty simple to get the streaming going. But if you're using like a high-end work and you need to tweak the settings, you can get in and customize an XML file. What we've done is we've put all the settings that are in here in an XML file, and you can go in there and you can customize that XML file and get through. And there's details on how to do that in the manual. So if you're technically minded, you can just go in the XML file and you can tweak the settings.
Nice.
You could even add other services. You could add a custom streaming service in that XML file, and then it'll appear in the menus here and populate.
Nice.
Like you could even run, like if you're using you could remove services from the XML file if you wanted. So say you're setting up a community group with an ATEM Mini Pro and you didn't want them really changing the settings, you could take out the settings in the XML file you don't want. So
nice.
That's in the user folder for the application preferences, and you can see how that works. In the manual's got some details on it. Now, one of the other features we've got in here is we thought, well, with a powerful streaming engine built in, we thought it'd be good if we could actually record the stream as well. So what we did is we added the same software that runs on our Hyperdeck Studio Mini into the ATEM Mini Pro. So this lets us record video direct to an external USB device, USB disk. Now, this is an exact duplicate of the video you're streaming.
That's fantastic.
The video is encoded with H.264 format with an AAC codec, which means you can upload the file to YouTube or any other streaming service later. Now, this kind of protects against an internet outage. Like, say you're doing a live stream and the internet went out. Well, if you're recording the stream, then you've always got something for upload later. Now, you've also got a choice between different data rates. As you can see in the menu there, I've got the Hyperdeck data rates, which are really high quality, almost they're broadcast quality data rates. And there's also some lower quality streaming data rates as well, which are pretty good, but they're more designed to allow you to get through
why they
lower
don't use,
internet speeds. Now, there's a button for the recording on the front panel as well. You can see it right there.
H.265. I'm surprised they don't.
And there's also a disk status light just above it. So you get the status of the disk. Now, the disk status light will show green when the disk is ready to record. It'll show red when you are recording. It'll also blink slowly if your disk is about to become full. So that's very much like a Hyperdeck. Because the data is recorded in H.264, it's actually low enough so you can use a mechanical hard disk or a USB thumb drive or something like that. Now, to show you this, what I've actually got a mechanical hard disk here. If I plug in
Anthony wants
this here, this is
wants everything
disk.
to be NDI.
Now,
That's unfortunately, Blackmagic's never going to support it because it's a new tech format.
Mechanical disks are a little bit slower to get going because they've got to spin up. But these are incredibly low cost, these disks. And you can record for hours without it getting expensive. So what's really nice about that is if you can record every job you do, and that'll mean you can archive everything you've ever done. So you can see the lights come up green there. And if I hit record, now I'm recording the disk.
Nice.
Now, so you can see very clearly when you're recording. And it also supports the disk being accidentally unplugged. So I'm recording currently on that. Now, if I just yank this cable out, which is really what you normally wouldn't do, but I can do it. So what I'll do is, instead of stopping the recording gracefully, I'll just yank the cable out like that. Oh. Now if I plug that disk into the computer, I can mount that disk and I can show you the file. So again, it's a mechanical disk, so it takes a moment to spin up. There it is.
You didn't eject me first.
I think which file was the one we just created?
How it's doing that.
There it is there. So you can see it's very fast. Cool. It's a very fast file. It's very easy to, you can use it for, it's really fast file. It's got that icon preview. I don't like icon previews. They're confusing. So you can see that the files are very fast to shuttle. So this is great if you want to edit the files later because it works just like a normal editing video file. Now the other thing you can do is I can record to an SD card, a thumb drive. Really anything works. So if I plug this in, even a thumb drive's fine. I can plug that in there. And
it's a Type-C
you can see that it's come up. There it goes. Now I can hit record. There it is. You can connect now. One thing I'll show you just before I move on to the next point is that in the record stream palette, oops, you can see there I am there. I've got a similar palette. I've also got display status there, so you can see that I'm now, the time I've got and the recording. But as you can see here, you can actually connect multiple disks via USB hub or a multi-dock, multi-dock over there. So these settings for the recording are in the ATEM software control. Now you're
watching our live stream of
USB port on the
Blackmagic presentation, obviously a presentation originally intended for NAB,
so this gives us
but since there's no NAB this year, they decided to stream it live. We're glad they did. So far, Grant's shown us the ATEM Mini and a new product, the ATEM Mini Pro, which is similar but has built-in streaming. If we want to thank our sponsors at LastPass, who gave us carte blanche. They said, we love the live streams of events, of news. We want to sponsor each and every one of them in the year 2020. And so that means we can do things like this, bring you these Blackmagic streams, thanks to LastPass. Thank you, LastPass. We really appreciate it. And a reminder, if you're preparing that remote workforce to get out there, to go home, to take your vital company assets home, to log into your bank accounts and your databases and your servers and your cloud from home, you really need LastPass. Transitioning to a work-from-home environment is not only complicated, but frankly scary, but LastPass can help you make the transition without decreasing security. First of all, there's a lot more phishing out there, especially COVID-19 associated phishing and spear phishing attacks. And these bad guys are going to see your employees at home as a ripe target. LastPass reduces the risk of these schemes because it doesn't autofill passwords on suspicious websites. And your employees don't even have the passwords in most cases, so they can't by themselves manually fill it in. And if remote employees are accessing your company's VPN, LastPass adds an additional and a much welcome layer of security right to the VPN through things like biometric multi-factor. So your VPN may not support it, but LastPass does, and that's fantastic. Regardless of where or how your employees need access, LastPass ensures your employees have secure access to their work applications with single sign-on. Employees love that because they don't need passwords at all. They just need their phone to say, yes, that's me, and boom, they're in. Of course, the best-in-class password management is the one I've been using for a decade now, and I use it at home. We have it here at work. We use LastPass Enterprise at work. They have an offline mode. Nowadays, work at home, you can't guarantee a full-time access to the internet, but LastPass will still work offline, both for password management and for multi-factor authentication. So if the internet's spotty, LastPass isn't. Seamless collaboration with coworkers, that's always essential, and LastPass allows remote employees to securely share passwords across teams, stay on top of critical projects without risking the keys to the kingdom. We use folders for sharing. Every department has its own folder. Makes it very easy to get somebody up to speed. You don't have to manually share each password. They just get access to the folder, and it really helps segregate the information. So only the people who need to know get that information. Great for admins too, by the way. I mean, we've been talking about the end user experience, which is incredible, but admins love it because they have 100+ policies they can enforce. We enforce, for instance, two-factor authentication for all of our employees. They got to use it. No choice. You have minimum master password requirements, all sorts of things. LastPass always gives you information about who's accessing your resources, where they are located, and all of that. And that's really important as you disperse your workforce but want to keep tight control over your resources. You're going to love LastPass. Increased security doesn't have to be complex. LastPass makes it easy. Start your journey today. Visit lastpass.com/twit. Find out what they can do for you in this difficult time. And thank you so much, LastPass, for your support of everything we do here at TWiT, especially our TWiT news feeds, because having the flexibility, as we did, we learned about this event a couple of days ago. I said, you know what? I love what Blackmagic's doing. Let's cover it. And LastPass said, hey, of course, you got it. We will sponsor it. So we really appreciate it. And we also appreciate you. Thank you all for being here.
So you can see I've started here. I can do it from the front panel. So it's pretty easy. And I've got all my status down here. So if I go to other palettes and I'm doing some transitions, I've still got the status down the bottom here, and I can still see what's going on with the streaming and the recording, which I'm doing both at the moment. And you can start and stop those independently of each other. Now, what I'll do is I'll show you some multiple disk stuff. I'll go back to the output palette. In fact, I'll close the streaming palette.
Just focus on the record mentioned palette. Price or availability for the ATEM Mini Pro. Looks like the biggest shift, of course, is internal encoding.
And I'll unplug the
to H.264,
which is one of those thumb drives that comes apart in pieces, so that's awesome. I've got a collection of bits. So what I'll do is I'll unplug leave my mechanical disk aside, and I've got a multi-dock here. So you can see a now basically Blackmagic multi-dock allows you to plug 4 disks on the single USB connection. So it's really very much like it's basically, and it's really just for me to show you a good way of plugging in multiple disks. You don't need to use one of these, of course.
I wouldn't think so.
It's a great way of showing 4 disks on a single USB connection, because that's essentially all it really is. It's got a single USB on the back, and well, in fact, there's 2 USBs. You can have it groups of 2 groups of 2 if you like. But I can plug this in.
It is, CodeMorph is asking, is it a compelling feature? And I'm sure this won't be too much more expensive than the Mini. But the idea is most people are using the Mini to do live streams. So why not put the encoder in the Mini? It also gives you, as you can see, the benefit that you can take this now encoded video, this H.264 video, and output it to a USB drive. It's small enough to easily record via USB.
There it is. And you can see it's come up the disk.
And of course, most people are using OBS or something like OBS, which will let them encode on the computer.
Now,
and
what I can do is I can plug in a second disk.
I think
And it'll show you
with a fast enough computer, it's not an issue.
Scenario, right? You might be recording a performance. You got one disc in, that's recording. Now I need to be able to, that disc's getting full, I might be able to swap over. So what I'll do is I'll plug
It's convenient to be able to stream right from the
In fact, I'll plug all the discs in. Why not?
This is not.
Yeah, so now I've got 4 discs, and they'll all come up, and they're all on the single USB chain. So what I'll be able to do is come over here to this menu, and you see there's a second disc menu here. Now, what I can do is I can select which disc I like. So I could maybe pick that disc, and I can switch discs while it's recording. So if I click this switch disc button, you should see that the disc changes.
That's interesting. I mean, one of the nice things Blackmagic does is it integrates with all their existing hardware. I love how you can control the camera, for instance, from the ATEM software interface, things like that.
So that means you can swap discs while you're recording. Now, the other thing is you can also swap discs by pressing and holding the record button. So if you watch the palette here and you hold the record button down, it'll switch over. That's something Hyperdecks do. It's the same method for swapping discs that works on all the Hyperdeck recorders. And if I do it again, just swapped. So you can see the front panel of the multi-dock. If you get a shot of that, when I hold it down, you see it switch over. You'll see that the indicators change.
So this is some market that I don't really fully understand.
So there is a switch button, but you don't necessarily need to use it. You can actually swap discs from the front.
I don't know why you would be doing that.
So you've got that dedicated switch button, because that's fast, obviously. Holding the button down takes a second to switch, whereas that's quicker. And that can be really useful, because if you switch discs, the disc that just came offline now is the one you can actually give to an editor, and you can start editing up something that might have happened in your performance. So if you're doing a sporting event, often they'll have a package at the end of the program that's had a lot of highlights.
This is H.264. It's not recording
get it to an editor, you can
ProRes
use that
or anything
content
like that.
to edit something up quickly, and then when the show finishes, you've actually got content from the show, because you can swap the discs around. So you can see as we swap discs, we can move around and use any slot we like, swapping the discs, changing and recording between slots. So I'm using a Blackmagic multi-dock here, but if you had more than one disc on a USB hub, it'd work exactly the same. There's also, as you can see, the status settings there as well. So you can see that disc changing stuff is happening down between the 1 and the 2. You can see which side you're on, and there's some information there, like the Hyperdecks have. You can see what you're doing. Now, because of course, if you're live switching a program, you'd have our other palettes open most of the time, so you really don't want the recording or the streaming palette open. Now, what's really exciting is because we're using Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras, we can record in the cameras to Blackmagic RAW files. So this means that you can record in the cameras.
You can do ISOs in the cameras.
So you can edit files later as a multicam edit.
Yeah.
Like the new sync bin and the DaVinci Resolve cut page is perfect for this.
You no longer need the switcher.
If you really just want all your camera files to be synchronized, they need to have the same time code, and this is an important feature.
Oh, it has time code?
So you'll notice that there's a setting here that says recording all the cameras. So actually what I'll do first, I'll show you, we also have a new timecode generator, which is a critical part of this. So I really probably should show you that first. So the timecode palette, if I go down to here, there's a timecode generator, and that's the timecode that's being generated. Now
I don't even think our TriCasters do timecode.
That's the wrong time. I think the computer must be the wrong time.
The Pix does,
so, but it also can do preset timecode.
That's always been one of the wraps on the TriCasters. You don't get timecode.
So on the ATEM Mini HDMI video out, that also has timecode, and that uses this timecode generator. The disc recordings will use the same timecode.
So one of the reasons that I have to have that clock on the shelf behind me so that Kevin King can edit the video.
And then used on the
he knows where in the video he is. Carson will actually write down actual times.
When you edit the files from all the cameras,
it doesn't look like SMPTE. It looked like just time, right?
All I need to do is select that there, and then when I record, it'll trigger the start recording on all the cameras.
So that's really key.
And what you see is a orange tally light on all the cameras
to
tell you that they're on air.
Yeah, that's
but when you switch around, you still see the red tally light is when it's on air, but you can see that the orange light indicates that all the cameras are actually recording. All those cameras just went into recording when I pressed record here. And if I stop, they'll stop and go back to, all the lights go off, except the one camera that's on air.
It's nice.
And then when I record again, you see they've all gone orange.
These cameras, the 4K versions are $12.95. You don't need more than the 4K because the ATEM only does 1080p.
You can make sure that all your
cameras that's not hugely expensive. It's just sort of like consumer-grade camcorders. And having this software control of them is fantastic.
You can still record to an external flash drive on all these cameras as well. So you want really long recordings, you can put flash drives on the cameras. Now the recording will be in sync. The Blackmagic RAW files in the cameras means, and this is really an important point, I think this is the bit that makes this exciting, is you're recording synchronized Blackmagic RAW files in the cameras, which means you can use a HD switcher for a live stream,
right,
but then edit incredible
4K.
quality color graded Ultra HD master files later, because you can go back to the Blackmagic RAW files. Remember, the Blackmagic RAW files are in film gamma. So even though your camera output is a graded video image coming out because you've used the DaVinci Resolve color grader in the cameras, the file itself is actually still original film gamma, and it's the Blackmagic RAW file, which means the output as video of the cameras. You can use it for live switching and streaming, but the files won't have those color grades burned in.
That's cool.
They'll stay digital film files.
That's really cool.
In wide dynamic range, film gamma, so a colorist can grade them later. So that's perfect for DaVinci Resolve, as you can edit them all in the sync bin.
So you could stream a relatively low-quality version of this, but record a high-quality version
live productions
for later editing.
Because we're going to be really excited to see what people do.
Nice if it saved an EDL from the live switching, so you
you're able to
could automate
literally
the edit.
do like a 4K edit on using a HD switcher. So it's pretty interesting. It's quite exciting. So it's also worth remembering that on this model in the ATEM Mini
They make
Pro,
a
that if you're not
6K
using USB for recording,
as well
you can
of
still
this
use it for a
pocket
webcam
cinema.
out, because it works just like the ATEM Mini model. So that's not all it has. The last big feature I want to talk about with ATEM Mini Pro is a new multi-view on the video output.
They actually need to
Now,
color grade
on the
this
front panel, ATEM
stream.
Mini Pro has a new video output selection.
This is
button. Now, if you
clearly
look
not
down here,
color
you can see
graded.
Now what
It's
these
very
buttons let us do is
desaturated.
change the source to the video out on the ATEM Mini Pro. Now the whole time we've been looking at this, we've been looking at the program out, which is selected down here, but we can also change to any of the camera sources as well.
Hands on Tech 71 has a review of the. I didn't even know we had a review of it, of the 6K
that's the program output
Blackmagic
that we've
Pocket
been looking,
Cinema
and you can see
camera.
I'm doing transitions. But sometimes if you're looping a computer through the ATEM Mini,
I think we sent it
say
back
out
too
to a
fast,
projector,
Anthony.
you'll want to use a dedicated video input to come out. So a good example is you might have a slideshow that you normally connect into your projector, but you want to get access to that slideshow because it actually looks pretty cool if you have it digitally into the switcher as one of the sources. If you're doing an education video and the presenter, the lecturer's
about a
got
$3,000
a camera or two on them, but they've also got slides. What you want to do is you want to feed their output into the switcher, and then the video output you want to be dedicated to, say, one of the sources. So say, for example, we had the slideshow connected to camera 1, you'd want to set camera 1 as the output, and then that output can go to the projector. So everyone that the lecturer is presenting to just sees their slideshow, but you've got access to the slides in the switcher as a video source. Now, if I'm changing transitions now, you can see that that doesn't change. That's a dedicated video out, and I can switch between different video sources coming into the switcher, and that's not the program out. That's that just stays on that camera. So you can see that's a really nice feature, and you can do that right from the front panel. It's got a little mini switcher and a switcher. But let's go to the multi-view. There it is there. Now you can see what the multi-view looks like, and as you can see, it's got all the cameras, and it's got our program and our preview.
If we were going
to
to upgrade from our
all I need to do is switch
720p production, we'd probably do a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema
and that'll
cameras.
change the HTML output to output that multi-view. Now you can see there's a program output on the top right-hand side, and that's the stream being
Something
recorded.
like it. Blackmagic
so the
has a
program view
variety
there
of
is that's
really
the stream going out.
cameras.
Now the
just
great
need
advantage
sensor,
of using
really,
the program preview style switching, as you can see on the left-hand side, is that's the preview. And I don't have this set up to program preview switching. I could change it, but I'll just mention it because we saw it before. But one of the things about having the preview view dedicated there is that the green view is the one that's on the preview source. So you can see what's on air, but simultaneously you can see what you're about to put on air. And that really helps reduce errors, because when you can see what you're going to select before you select it, you got a chance to really confirm that's the source you want, and then you trigger with the cut or the video, the auto buttons. That's why professionals in broadcast use program preview style switching. So you can see how the preview works as we did before. Now, if you're switching yourself while you're presenting, you'd probably want to just keep using the cut bus, which I'm doing here, and in that case, you'll just look at the program view, because you really just want to press one button at once. When you're doing program preview switching, you got to select the source, then push, the transition. But you don't often really want to do that if you're switching yourself, and that's very common with ATEM Mini, where the presenter is actually also doing a switch off the side when people can't see it. They're just using it by feel. Now you've also, if you look across the middle of the multi-view, you can see we've got all the video inputs are visible across the multi-view, right across the middle there. So you can see I've got camera 1, camera 2, camera 3,
I have
and camera
2
4.
monitors in front of me. I can
now
see
you can also,
preview
in the settings, you can turn on audio meters for these. I don't actually have any audio meters turned on at the moment. It's not as important on ATEM Mini Pro, because you'll see in a minute. But each view can have an audio meter, and you can have custom labels. Those labels can be customized. And that's done in the switcher settings. So, you can go into the switcher settings and
almost
you can change
certainly you
things
don't
like,
want to use their
switcher
audio.
standard in there, actually.
We certainly don't use the TriCaster mixer.
You can do all that
audio.
through here, and you can also set up the multi-view over here, and you can turn on audio meters and things like that.
But
see, there you go there. So I've turned on the audio meter. So there it is there. Now, the bottom left-hand side, and what I'll do is I'll go back into the media player and I'll load that.
If you were using them for the streamer, you'd have to use their audio, wouldn't you?
I've got that is my media player.
That's a drawback.
I can see the media player in the bottom left-hand view. So you've also got a visible of all 4 cameras and your graphic that you've got loaded as well. And that's really super useful.
You have to get the lens too, don't you?
Now, this graphic had an alpha channel in it, so it'll overlay on top of video.
I think it's
you can see the background's just black.
Micro Four Thirds,
now,
right?
One of the most interesting things about ATEM Mini Pro is, and one of the most important uses for the multi-view, is when you're streaming and recording, you've got streaming and recording and audio mixer status in the multi-view as different views. When you're busy switching, particularly if you're doing the job by yourself and you've got some fixed cameras, you really need to know what you're recording and your live stream status is all okay.
Yeah,
if it's okay,
so
it's still running without any problems. You can see that in the
you might even have some, as I
ATEM
do.
software control, but you've also got views in the multi-view, and there's a bit more information in there. So we've got dedicated views for each one of these functions. Now, this is important. Like if you've got 10,000 people watching your live stream, you really want to know you're on air and your streaming's okay. So you can see the status at the bottom of view, the bottom left, sort of left of center one down the bottom there. You can see the record status. Sorry, the right of center is the record status. The left of center is the streaming status there. Now you can see the information in there is also the same information that's on the display status down the bottom there. But you've got some much bigger indicators. So I can stop and start recording, for example, and you can see it stop and start. You can also see these big disk status indicators and really help you stay aware of what the state of your disk is, so how much space you've got left. And also, if I do this disk switch, you'll see it switch across.
If this COVID quarantine continues, I think you're going to see more and more people using this for weddings,
you can see
funerals,
7 hours of
church services,
time on there.
schools. There's a huge market for this.
And they really help
relatively easy video
production.
production.
Really keep you aware of what's going on with your disk management.
Live streaming
really
video production.
Now you can also see the volume name on the bottom there, and these are just called disk 1 and disk 3. There's time remaining and the space remaining. Just below the time remaining is the space remaining, so you see how much disk space is there. Now the streaming palette shows when you're on air. It shows the cache, which we talked about before, and the data rate's big as well. So you can see it's 8.21 megabit a second there is what we need. And when you start streaming, you can see there's a big status on air indicator that shows you just very clearly what's going on. Now, the last view on the right-hand side is an interesting one. It's the audio mixer status. You can actually see all the pocket cameras coming in are all picking up my audio. So when I'm making noise, you can see all the audio inputs. Now, these turn on and off with the channel indicators. So you can see them turn on and off there. I'm changing one. I'll put it back onto audio follow video. But
It's
you can
hard
see
to take something
as the
with
audio
mini
channels
jack
turn on, you can see the
inputs
status change.
for the microphone seriously as an audio mixer.
Or dynamic effects you might have added. So if you go into the audio mixer, I can go into the Fairlight page in the ATEM software control
Maybe that's just
and
my
add some
prejudice.
EQ, and you can see it actually the status comes up there. So you can see all the audio meters. The actual, sorry, just one thing that's worth mentioning before I go to the Fairlight page, the microphone inputs are also there as well, but at the moment they're turned off. If I turn them on, you can see they highlight as well, but I've got no microphones plugged in. So let me go to the Fairlight page.
And I guess you are getting audio from the
audio,
cameras,
it's actually
right?
called in here, sorry. That is a Fairlight audio mixer, but it's the audio page. I'm getting confused with DaVinci. So it's been a long month. So as I've got in here, I can go
Tell
in
me
here and
about
set,
it, Grant.
say if I set some EQ, do some wacky EQ, you can see that the EQ indicators come up on the status for camera 1 because that's the one I'm adjusting. And I'll also put on the compressor as well. And now you can see that the dynamics, that means DN means dynamic. So you can see I've got some audio processing applied. And so here I am busy doing a job and I've got transitions that I'm working on, but I can look down at my
good
multi-view and see
shotgun
what's going
mics
on
on the
with
cameras and use those instead.
The audio input of the,
does take those as audio
of the
as
ATEM
well.
Mini Pro. And that's really good because it means you don't need to put audio meters over the top of the other camera views. Even though you can still do that, you don't have to do that. And as you adjust levels, you can also see the levels adjust as well. So if I go
It'll also do something cool. If you have mics on all the cameras, it'll follow, the mic audio will follow camera switching.
So I can even tell the audio level that I'm set.
That's pretty cool.
I'll run that gain up a bit so you can see that meter gets higher So now it's a bit higher. Well, actually, the cameras are in different positions.
Which means you can have audio from your computer too,
in the
couldn't
multi-view.
you?
So you can see that the ATEM Mini Pro multi-view has got a lot more features than just monitoring all your cameras. Yeah, it's got all the status information for what's going on with the recording and streaming and everything like that. Yeah, we think it's going to be very useful for more complex
if your
work.
camera is a pro-grade camera and has XLRs, many do, Anthony's pointing out you could put your real microphones into that and then take the camera audio.
Switching, because it's just all there. And you know, you've always got this ATEM software control, but it's more of a off-the-side thing. You don't have to kind of be looking at that, but you're looking at your cameras. You've got it all there on one display with enough information to know that everything's working okay. And I'm still streaming from before. I've been streaming for 32 minutes. There you go. Now, the ATEM Mini Pro will retail for $595.
That's not too bad.
And we started production today, so it should be available very soon.
$200
Although there's
more.
obviously been some problems with so many flights cancelled. Getting things through has been a little bit tricky, but we're getting there. As you can see, there's the slide with the price.
Or 300. Did he say
now, we think this new
$595?
model will be a really nice complement to the original ATEM Mini.
Yeah,
and
300 more.
You can really choose the model you need
double the
based on the
price.
type of work you're doing.
I don't know.
Whether you need all the capability here or not. Now, so that should be very exciting. I can't wait to see what people do with the new ATEM Mini Pro. Now, the last thing I wanted to really talk about, well, actually I've got two more things to talk about, but the last update I've got is we've got a new Hyperdeck Studio Mini update. Now, Hyperdeck Studio Mini is really popular, and it's even a great clip player for the ATEM Mini.
Do we own one of these?
Here it is here.
Already?
You see, it's a tiny little Hyperdeck. In fact, the update for this and the ATEM Mini Pro, it's actually running the same codec and same software. You can see on the back, you've got a HDMI.
John says he'll buy one if you want me to.
I'll put it on here so you can see it.
So this is a recorder.
Now, the new software, it's a big update. I mean, this is a big update we've done for this. We've got a lot of them out there, so we really wanted to do something to upgrade it and add some new features and some of the, basically a big collection of stuff that people have needed. It's almost like a whole new Hyperdeck Studio Mini, actually, this software. It's a big one. Now, one of the biggest things we've done, we've got longer file recordings but in a single file. So now you can record at least 3 hours, depending on the frame rate, at least 3 hours before it spawns off another file. Before it was about an hour, I think. If you record it for more than an hour, it would create another file. Now it's over 3 hours before it does a second file, which is very useful.
These were
We've
about
also got a whole new
$700. I don't know what the updated cost
is. It's a better quality codec for the same data rate, so it really adds a lot of higher quality, just a high quality for the same data rate, which is fantastic for editing use. If you're taking those H.264s off to an editing system, they're really, some of the higher quality ones are really post-production quality or broadcast quality. Now, the big thing, though, is for broadcasters, it's true interlace support. We've added true interlaced support in the H.264 files when you're recording on this. So you get 1080i 50, 1080i 59 and 4 and things like that. So that's really good for big broadcasters who are running interlace-based systems.
This is
the other thing we've done is we've
SD
added an
card
AAC audio
recorder.
codec.
You put in,
so
has
those
two slots. You put in
files can be
SD
direct
cards.
uploaded to YouTube. So this means when you're playing back, like when you're recording files on it, masters on it, you can just upload them directly. Now, the other thing that's good about this is that you can play back the files from the ATEM Mini Pro. So even the lowest streaming data rates, it'll actually play those. So, that's really cool. So you can,
I guess.
You can you obviously switch to the other video codecs. There's ProRes and other codecs in there like that, and audio codecs as well. It's very flexible. You can change all the different codecs, but I think the H.264 workflow is really exciting. A couple of other little things we've done. The advanced media protocol support has been added into the RS422 remote port, so we've got that now. And a big thing we've done, when Hyperdeck Studio Mini first shipped, its FTP speed, you can actually upload files onto the cards and download files onto the cards with the FTP protocol through the Ethernet. Now, that speed used to be 2 megabits a second when it originally shipped. Now, we did a couple of upgrades and we got it to about 60 megabits a second. Now it's 110 megabits a second, so it's as fast as the SD cards that are plugged in the front of it. So it's very, very fast. Like, you can upload files and download files really quickly. Now, the new Hyperdeck 7.1 update is a free update, and it'll be available today. So you can just go and download that, and it's, update your Hyperdeck Studio Mini, get a whole new Hyperdeck.
So the Hyperdeck is $695.
So I thought before I finish up, it might be worth talking about how powerful these ATEM Mini switches really are. Even though the ATEM Mini is small, you can.
It's interesting.
Expand
they're really. This is low-end broadcasting, which is
totally transform
a
how
huge growth area.
If you had hardware panels, and so.
In fact, one of the reasons NAB's become more
keep using
interesting over the years is because you see more and more of this, podcast level
it's easy to think of
broadcast
ATEM
stuff
being a simple
as
switch
opposed
because it's so
to
small.
the big, expensive
advanced panel,
broad network engineering show it used to be.
1ME advanced panel over here. So I thought I might show you how to use this. So I'll connect it up. I've got, obviously I've been connected direct to the software here, but what I'll do is I've got a couple of cables here that loop through those two switches. So I'll plug them in and plug them here. You see my software interface has gone off, and I'll get rid of this cable. There it is there. Now,
this is what my
now I'm
office
plugged and looped through.
Like
you can see the panels have come up. And because I'm looped through the switcher, I'll turn my streaming off.
Now we get to see the connect.
I'll reconnect. There it is there. And there's my control. Come back up. Now, the great thing about an ATEM 1ME panel, I'll go down if you can follow me down. Yeah, you get separate buttons for everything because the panel's got a lot more space than obviously we've got here. So you can really do, like you've got dedicated buttons for everything. That's why it's so powerful and so fast. So if you follow me down, I can come down here and show you. So if you look at the front panel, you can do the switching along the preview row. Down here, it's separate of the program row.
That's
so
basically what we do on the TriCaster. We have two rows. And when I use a plain PC keyboard, I just use the number keys and the function keys. Function is program. Number keys are
And your
preview.
cut. So it's pretty cool. You can see the front
Looks
panel.
very
of the,
similar to a
if you
TriCaster.
actually look down there, I think you can see the front panel of the ATEM Mini Pro switching as I do those switches, see? So I'm controlling that little switcher down there, all the way down there. And you can see it reflecting what you're doing, but obviously here you've got broken into separate rows for the preview and the program. And you can see I can also cut there. You can see it's cutting the source. I can select any other source on the preview bus. I can cut to that. And I select that source. You can see it on the preview
They
window
really
as well,
need to
so
grade their video.
that's where the program preview switching is really good.
Everything
you can
looks
select which
kinda
source you want. So
grey.
you want that one, and cut to that. Now the program's cut to that. And of course you've got the auto there as well. And also you can change between different types of things. You can change to a one. Oh God, it's got a diamond wipe in there. I didn't know that was set.
Yeah, we saw it earlier. Thank you.
Control, DVE. And
We have a lot of wipes we don't use too.
See? That moves
Basically,
the
you want a
so
dissolve and a
go
cut.
to
That's
mix,
all you
get a
want.
nice sort of blended mix. Particularly useful sometimes.
Although
in
Kevin
concerts where you
King
wanna
is
blend
notorious
things.
for his bizarre wipes.
You've also got all the system control menus over here, so you can go through different menus and access different processing in the switcher, all from the front piece. So there's direct buttons in here to do things. Plus, you've also got a downstream keyer over here. So you can see I can turn on the downstream keyer. There's the graphic, and I can cut it on and off. You can actually see it's a very close reflection of the software interface. What's also interesting is I can tie the switch, tie the see when I tie it, and then when I do the
Jerry
transition,
Todd's doing the video here.
I'm tying my downstream keyer on and off with the transition. So when I do the transition, it also
I always felt
turns on
like
the
Jerry
downstream keyer at
Todd,
the same time.
the
Really powerful. You've
SCTV
even got a big
character
joystick
that Rick
here for moving
Moranis did.
DVDs around. So if you're doing a picture
when I
picture,
started doing my own switching on the stream
now,
many
there's
years
even
ago.
4 ME buttons along here. ATEM Mini Pro is a 1 ME switcher, but this panel will actually control up to 4 separate MEs and a bigger switcher. So it's pretty exciting. And now what's really cool is because we've got camera control, we can also use the camera control panel. So this is the ATEM camera control panel over the side here. It lets you control 4 cameras.
So this is if you don't want to do it in software on a computer screen, which is admittedly annoying. You can do it all with physical hardware.
So you can see I can adjust the camera there. Now it allows up to 4 cameras to be adjusted at the same time, but you can also change the camera numbers really easily. So you can actually do more than 4 cameras.
However,
which doesn't matter so much with ATEM Mini Pro, but it obviously when you're running a bigger switch, you can do that. Now you've got different control sections here. You've got some menus here. You've got some of the camera settings. You've got color correction settings down here. And then the main control here is this iris control. That's the iris, and when you rotate it, it's black level. So I'll go down and I'll put camera 4 on here.
Let me just check the
And
prices.
you can see me adjust camera 4.
Hardware he's
You
using.
see there it is there. That's the iris and the lens. So you can see that's similar to what the software has.
The panel on the
and if
left
you rotate,
is
you can adjust the black level. So you can bring the black down a little bit.
T-bar.
Maybe bring it up a bit brighter.
And the camera
there's a bit more
control is
contrast.
$3,000. So that's about
Something really
$6,000 worth of
Now,
additional
the other
hardware.
cool thing is you can even do color tints, but this time you've got 3 knobs. So you can do red, green, and blue in
And it's
black.
still only
You can
4 cameras, which is hysterical.
adjust the tints. There, I'm doing it crudely, of course.
But 4 is all you really need.
One
Most
interesting thing is one of the,
most television news
CCU guys
operations are
used to tell us that
3-camera
one of the tricks
operations.
They do is they only adjust the
Of course,
red and
that's
the blue
'cause you
panel,
can
they
move
leave
the
green panel
cameras.
as it is. And I'm not a colorist, so I actually find that a really good trick. So you can always tell
You need a
if you're a
single
little
for
bit
the
cool
2
or a little bit
anchors,
warm in
a single
picture.
for the
So you get a
weatherman.
little bit of red or
You
blue
need a
tint,
2-shot
green,
and
red.
maybe
It's
a
really
wide
nice way
shot.
of
That's all you need.
not getting lost, because I often, when I'm using a trackball or a color wheel, I just get a bit lost and end up resetting all the time. But it's nice to actually have the direct knobs for that, which is pretty cool. Now, there's also a wide range of camera settings. You can see I've got all the...
this is the Blackmagic ATEM camera control panel.
It's a bit hard to reach over and see it.
But
you can adjust
the
gain, which is obviously
Blackmagic
ISO
design cameras
terminology,
for it to really work.
But gain, the same thing's called gain in the TV industry. You can adjust focus. There's a focus thing there. You've got a call button, which just flashes the tally. There's also even the color bars button, which wherever it is. If you push the color bars, it'll bring bars out. So if you're trying to test a camera. And what's really exciting is I think both these panels are really great together. You know, when you see these panels together like this and you've got the multi-view on a display behind them, you don't even really know that it's an ATEM Mini.
This is more of a mega church setup than the
ATEM switchy,
ATEM the little
Mini Pro
church.
Over here is doing all the work, and it looks like, but it looks like the panels and the multi-view are the switcher. Like this looks like your switching setup, but it's really the switcher here, the little ATEM Mini Pro, that's doing all the work. And so,
isn't that
what's really
interesting?
great about this is you can
they're just control surfaces.
You can really use the same switcher in a small way or a big way, and it's and it's the same switcher, but it's just a very different workflow. And plus, these panels work on any model of ATEM switcher, so you can just move them to a bigger switcher in the future if you need a lot more inputs.
That's one of the things that Blackmagic's really done well with this ATEM line.
Okay, so that's all we have
for this
update.
It's a very flexible line.
I just wanted to thank everyone again for all your support, and also I just want to thank everyone at Blackmagic Design. Everyone's worked so hard on these products, and it's not an easy situation at the moment to be doing this kind of work when there's so many engineering people working together, but they're all working from home. We've worked very hard on these, so we really do hope you like them. Again, please be safe. This is a terrible time at the moment with the COVID-19 virus, and we just want to make sure we all get a chance to catch up again at trade shows in the future once we get through all this. But, I've got a lot of confidence, a lot of smart people working on this problem right now, and so hopefully we get through it soon and we're all back to work and everything will be okay and we will get a chance to meet up and nobody gets hurt. So look out for yourselves. Really, we are worried and thinking about you. So thanks for watching, and really do hope to see it sometime in the future soon.
So that's Grant Petty. He's Blackmagic's founder. And you know what? I love the authenticity of that. I love the genuineness of that. He clearly loves what he does and understands the products pretty well. Doesn't get a lot of time on it. So there was a little fumbling, but I think he did a very, very good job. And it's interesting because Blackmagic, they've always really made low-cost, high-grade equipment for kind of not consumers, not prosumers, for broadcast operations, but maybe broadcast operations on a budget. And as technology has improved over time, the quality of what they're doing has improved. And people like Alex Lindsay, who are doing very high-end stuff, use almost exclusively now use Blackmagic, have moved from all of the traditional names like Sony to Blackmagic. And I think that's pretty exciting. And that's one of the reasons I said at the beginning of the broadcast at NAB, the first place I always head is the Blackmagic booth. It's over there in the South Hall. And it's always fascinating and exciting to see how they brought the price points down and the capabilities up. And the ATEM Mini is really the most exciting thing they've done in a long time. A $300 mini switcher. He demoed that. He demoed its big brother, the $600 ATEM Mini Pro, which essentially adds a couple of features: the ability to record directly to external hard drive and the ability to stream directly to the internet. And that's pretty exciting because it has a built-in encoder, an H.264 encoder built into the ATEM switcher. And so for a lot of people, that's going to be attractive. Although I suspect, and Anthony Nielsen said this in the chat room, our video guru here, that the ATEM Mini Pro encoding would probably be less desirable for people who are doing, for instance, Twitch streams on OBS. They're going to want to actually do the encoding directly on the computer to allow them to do some of the Twitch overlays and things. So there's still a big market for the ATEM Mini. In fact, for most people, I think the ATEM Mini is the right choice. The ATEM Mini Pro is really designed, I think, for actually, believe it or not, less sophisticated people like churches and schools that want to start streaming services and class activities, but don't want to have to figure out the ins and outs of encoding and streaming and so forth. And for that, I think a very good choice. They can stream directly to YouTube Live, enter the key in, and I imagine, I haven't seen the interface, but I would guess, I know this works with the ATEM Mini, fine. Enter the key and then you're suddenly streaming to YouTube. This is going to go out on our TWiT news feed. That's a new feed. We've separated our live streams into TWiT events, which are events outside the studio for the most part, things like the LastPass event, the event we did with Worldwide Technology, and TWiT News, which are events we do in the studio like this, covering breaking news stories and so forth. So we're glad you could be here for both of those, and we hope we will see you again next time. I'll be back tomorrow. Actually, stay tuned, because I should just keep going, shouldn't I? In about 20 minutes, it's a very special AMA. We've done two. We're going to continue to do these. I hope you don't mind, but I just really love the chance to do a more informal get together with people who maybe you don't get a chance to converse with that often. Paul Thurrott's going to join us from Windows Weekly. Florence Ion from All About Android. Stacey Higginbotham from This Week in Google. And I'm missing the fourth. Who's the fourth? Do you remember, John, off the top of your head? Rene Ritchie, of course. And in fact, I know a lot of people will want to ask him about his new enterprise. He's left iMore. So that's coming up in about 20 minutes. We'll do a hands-on Mac between now and then. This is a new show on TWiT that we're very proud of. I've been doing it. I'm a Mac user from way, way back, literally 1984, the beginning of the Mac era, and love the Macintosh. And over the years, I've learned a lot of, secret hidden tricks and tips, and we're going to start doing those every week. We'll give you a new hands-on Macintosh. In fact, it comes out every Friday, so I think this will be the debut of this one. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time on TWiT. Bye-bye. Stay safe.